The betrayal of trust, the emergency signal. Captain Elena Rodriguez stared at the communication console aboard the research vessel Pathfinder as red warning lights flooded the bridge. The emergency beacon from Colony 7 had been broadcasting for 3 hours, but what made her blood run cold was not just one distress signal. Her sensors were picking up panic transmissions from human settlements across 7 different star systems. Captain, we're receiving priority communications from Admiral Fletcher at Earth Command, reported Lieutenant James Park, his voice tight with concern. The young officer had served on the Pathfinder for 2 years, but Elena had never seen him. Look so shaken. Elena activated the secure channel, and Admiral Fletcher's weathered face appeared on the main screen. The 60-year-old commander looked like he had aged a decade since their last conversation just weeks ago. Elena, I need you to return to Earth immediately. Something terrible has happened, and we need every ship back home. Admiral, we're detecting distress signals from multiple colonies. Are we under attack? Elena asked, her mind racing through possible scenarios. The Galactic Alliance had guaranteed the protection of human settlements. Earth had been a member of the Alliance for 50 years, contributing resources, technology, and military support to countless joint operations. Fletcher's expression grew even darker. It's worse than an attack, Captain. We've been betrayed by the very organization we trusted to protect us. The Alliance has been systematically sabotaging our expansion efforts for the past decade. Every failed colony, every mysterious equipment malfunction, every delayed supply shipment, it was all orchestrated to keep humanity weak and dependent. Elena felt the deck seem to shift beneath her feet. The Alliance consisted of 12 major species and dozens of minor ones, all supposedly working together for mutual prosperity and protection. Humanity had been the newest member, eager to prove their worth and contribute to the greater galactic community. They had shared their most advanced technologies, opened their worlds to alien researchers, and sent their best people to serve in Alliance facilities across the galaxy. How do we know this? Elena asked, though deep down she feared she already knew the answer. 3 days ago, Dr. Sarah Kim at the Kepler Research Station intercepted communications between Alliance High Command and their field operatives. Elena, they've been poisoning our terraforming equipment, introducing fatal flaws into our ship designs, and even manipulating trade routes to isolate our colonies. The failure rate of human settlements wasn't due to inexperience or bad luck. It was sabotage. The bridge fell silent except for the steady hum of the ship's engines. Elena looked at her crew, seeing her own shock and anger reflected in their faces. Lieutenant Park was gripping his console so tightly his knuckles had turned white. Engineer Maria Santos, who had joined the crew just months ago, looked ready to march into the nearest Alliance facility and demand answers. The ultimatum arrives 2 hours later. As the Pathfinder began its journey back to Earth, another message came through the quantum communicator. This time, it was not from Earth Command. The transmission bore the official seal of the Galactic Alliance High Council. Ambassador Marcus Chan's voice filled the bridge, but he was not speaking from his usual office on the Alliance capital world of Nexus Prime. Instead, the transmission originated from Earth, specifically from the United Nations headquarters in New Geneva. Citizens of Earth, Chun began, his usually diplomatic tone replaced by barely controlled fury. I'm speaking to you from Earth because I have been expelled from Alliance space. 3 hours ago, I was summoned before the High Council and presented with an ultimatum that no free species should ever have to face. Elena ordered the transmission to be broadcast throughout the ship. Every crew member needed to hear this. Chun continued. The Alliance has revealed their true intentions toward humanity. They claim that our rapid expansion and technological advancement pose a threat to galactic stability. They say our democratic principles and individual freedoms are incompatible with Alliance collective governance. Their solution is simple: complete submission or complete isolation. The ambassador paused, and Elena could see the weight of responsibility bearing down on him. Marcus Chun had spent 20 years building relationships with alien species, fostering trade agreements, and representing humanity's interests across the galaxy. Now all of that work was crumbling. "The terms they have offered are as follows," Chun said, his voice growing stronger. "Humanity will surrender all military vessels to Alliance control. All human colonies beyond the Sol system will be placed under direct Alliance administration. Earth's government will be dissolved and replaced by an Alliance-appointed council. In exchange, they promise humanity will be allowed to exist as a protected species under their guidance." Lieutenant Park cursed under his breath. Engineer Santos slammed her fist against her workstation. Elena felt a cold rage building in her chest that she had not experienced since her days as a combat pilot during the Centauri border conflicts. "The alternative," Shun continued, "is complete severance of all ties with the Alliance. No trade, no diplomatic contact, no access to Alliance space or resources. They have given us 72 hours to decide. As your representative, I can tell you that the choice has already been made." Earth's defiant response, the next part of Chun's message, would be remembered in history books for centuries to come. His voice rose with conviction and pride as he delivered humanity's response to the Alliance ultimatum. "I stand here today, not as a diplomat seeking compromise, but as a human being who refuses to see our species enslaved by those who fear our potential. The Alliance believes they are offering us a choice between submission and destruction. They are wrong. They are offering us a choice between slavery and freedom, and humanity chooses freedom." Elena felt a surge of pride in her species that almost brought tears to her eyes. Around her, the bridge crew straightened their shoulders and looked at each other with new determination. "Effective immediately," Chun announced. "Earth withdraws from the Galactic Alliance. All treaties are void, all agreements are cancelled, and all Alliance personnel are requested to leave human space within 48 hours. To our fellow humans serving in Alliance facilities, you are ordered to return home immediately. To our colonies scattered across the galaxy, you are not alone. We will come for you." The ambassador's image grew larger on the screen as he leaned closer to the camera. "To the Alliance High Council, if you are monitoring this transmission, understand this. You have not cast out a weak species begging for protection. You have freed a race of explorers, builders, and fighters who no longer need to hold back their true potential. You wanted us to remain small and dependent. Instead, you have given us the greatest gift possible, the motivation to become something greater than you ever imagined. The great consolidation begins within hours of Chun's declaration. Earth's space traffic control systems were overwhelmed with incoming vessels. Cargo ships, passenger transports, military escorts, and private craft all converged on humanity's home system like iron filings, drawn to a magnet. Elena watched from the Pathfinder's observation deck as they approached Earth orbit. She had seen this view countless times, but never like this. The space around Earth buzzed with activity as hundreds of ships arrived carrying refugees from human colonies throughout Alliance space. Orbital shipyards that had been producing vessels for Alliance use were being rapidly retooled for purely human designs. The moon's surface was dotted with temporary structures housing the tens of thousands of humans who had been forced to abandon their homes in Alliance territory. Luna City had expanded overnight with prefabricated buildings and emergency shelters. But Elena could see that this was not a desperate refugee camp. This was an organized military mobilization. "Captain," Lieutenant Park called from the communications station, "we're receiving docking instructions from Earth Command. Admiral Fletcher wants to see you immediately upon arrival." Elena nodded, but her attention was caught by something extraordinary happening near Mars. A massive construction project was underway in orbit around the red planet. Structural frameworks that could only be the skeletons of enormous warships were taking shape, attended by swarms of construction craft and automated fabricators. As the Pathfinder docked at Luna Station, Elena realized that humanity's response to exile was not retreat, but expansion. The Alliance had tried to keep humans small and scattered. Now they were consolidating their power, their technology, and their determination into something that would reshape the galaxy. The price of freedom *. Admiral Fletcher met Elena at the airlock, and she was struck by the transformation in the man. Gone was the weary acceptance she had seen in their last communication. In its place was a steely determination that reminded her why Fletcher had earned his reputation as humanity's finest military mind. "Elena, I'm glad you made it back safely," Fletcher said as they walked through Luna Station's corridors. The station buzzed with activity as technicians, administrators, and military personnel worked around the clock to coordinate humanity's response to the crisis. "Admiral, what's our real situation?" Elena asked. The reports were getting suggest massive ship movements and construction projects, but I need to understand the scope of what we're facing. Fletcher led her to a secure briefing room where holographic displays showed the current positions of human assets throughout the galaxy. Red dots marked former Alliance colonies where humans were trapped or under siege. Blue dots showed independent human settlements beyond Alliance reach. Green dots indicated friendly or neutral species that might be willing to trade or cooperate with humanity. "The good news is that we're not as isolated as the Alliance believes," Fletcher explained. "About 30% of our colonial population was already living in independent systems beyond Alliance borders. These settlements had been growing and developing their own trade networks for years." Elena studied the display, noting that the independent colonies were concentrated in the Galactic Rim regions where Alliance influence was weakest. "And the bad news?" "The bad news is that we have over 2 million humans still trapped in Alliance space. Some are being held as hostages to pressure us into compliance. Others are being forced to work in Alliance facilities under guard. The Alliance seems to believe that if they can make our people suffer enough, we'll capitulate." Fletcher activated another display showing ship construction statistics that made Elena's eyes widen. They've underestimated human determination before, and they're doing it again. In the past 72 hours, we've begun the largest military construction project in human history. Every shipyard, every orbital factory, every manufacturing facility has been converted to warship production. The numbers on the screen were staggering. Earth's industrial capacity, no longer constrained by Alliance quotas and regulations, was producing warships at a rate that exceeded the output of most Alliance member worlds. The designs were entirely new, incorporating technologies that humans had been developing in secret, but had never been allowed to implement due to Alliance restrictions. "How long before we can mount a rescue operation?" Elena asked. Fletcher's smile was sharp and predatory. "Sooner than the Alliance expects. They think they're dealing with the same humans who joined their organization 50 years ago, grateful for protection and willing to follow their rules. They're about to discover that they've been dealing with a domesticated version of humanity. Now they get to meet the wild version." The forging of Steel Admiral Blake takes command 6 months after humanity's break with the Galactic Alliance. Admiral Sarah Blake stood on the bridge of the Defiance, the first of Earth's new sovereign class battleships. The vessel was a masterpiece of human engineering, combining lessons learned from 5 decades of Alliance membership with innovations that had been suppressed by alien oversight. Blake had been chosen to lead Operation Homecoming, the massive effort to evacuate human populations from alliance space, and consolidate them into the growing network of independent human worlds. At 45, she was the youngest admiral in Earth's history, but her tactical brilliance and unwavering determination had made her the natural choice for humanity's most important mission. Admiral, we are receiving confirmation from the advance. Scouts, reported Commander Lisa Zhang from the tactical station. The Kepler system evacuation is proceeding ahead of schedule. The Alliance garrison withdrew rather than face our liberation fleet. Blake nodded with satisfaction. This was the third Alliance-controlled system, where human colonists had been successfully evacuated without significant resistance. The pattern was becoming clear. When faced with superior human technology and determination, Alliance forces chose retreat over confrontation. What's the status of the industrial evacuation? Blake asked. Chief Engineer Robert Kim stepped forward with his datapad. Every piece of valuable equipment, every research facility, every manufacturing plant, we're taking it all. The modular construction methods we developed during our expansion phase are paying dividends now. We can dismantle entire factories and relocate them to independent systems within weeks. Blake walked to the observation deck and looked out at the organized chaos surrounding the Defiance. Massive cargo vessels loaded with industrial equipment, population transports carrying thousands of evacuees, and sleek escort fighters maintaining protective formations. This was not a desperate retreat. This was a calculated migration of an entire civilization. Revolutionary technology unleashed the transformation of human. Technology had been swift and dramatic once Alliance restrictions were removed. Dr. Elena Vasquez, humanity's leading physicist, had been summoned from her research station to oversee the development of new weapons and defense systems that would give human forces a decisive advantage. The quantum resonance drives alone represent a 50% improvement in speed and efficiency over anything the Alliance uses, Dr. Vasquez explained to Blake during a briefing aboard the Defiance. But the real breakthrough is in our weapon systems. She activated a holographic display showing the technical specifications of humanity's new arsenal. The Alliance has always favored large, slow-firing energy weapons that prioritize efficiency over combat effectiveness. Our new pulse cannons can deliver the same total energy in rapid bursts that overwhelm enemy shields through sheer volume of fire. Blake studied the data with interest. And the defensive applications? Even more impressive. Our adaptive shield matrices can analyze incoming weapons and modify their frequency responses in real time. Alliance weapons are designed to penetrate static defenses. They're not equipped to handle shields that evolve during combat. The implications were staggering. Humanity had always possessed superior tactical flexibility and innovative thinking, but they had been forced to fight with Alliance-approved equipment that played to their enemy's strengths. Now, with weapons designed specifically for human combat doctrines, they were virtually unstoppable. The birth of the Terran Federation, as the evacuation continued, it became clear that humanity needed a new form of government to manage their expanding civilization. President Maria Santos, elected in Earth's first post-Alliance election, announced the formation of the Terran Federation during a speech broadcast to every human settlement in the galaxy. Citizens of humanity, Santos declared from her office in New Geneva, we stand at a crossroads in our species' history. The Galactic Alliance sought to diminish us, to make us dependent on their protection and grateful for their scraps. Instead, they have given us the opportunity to build something better. The formation of the Terran Federation represented a radical departure from both Earth's previous government structure and the Alliance's collective model. Instead of a centralized authority making decisions for distant colonies, the Federation operated on principles of local autonomy balanced with species-wide cooperation. Each human world will govern itself according to its own needs and circumstances, Santos explained. But we will stand together in matters of defense, research, and exploration. We will share our knowledge freely among ourselves while protecting it from those who would use it against us. The Federation's first major policy decision was the establishment of citizenship rights for any sapient being who chose to live under human protection. This was a direct challenge to the Alliance's species-based hierarchy system and immediately attracted refugees from across the galaxy. Allies among the stars, the first non-human species to formally ally with the Terran Federation, were the Kethera, a race of master engineers whose homeworld had been strip-mined by Alliance mandate to provide raw materials for other species. Their leader, Engineering Guild Master Thoktar, arrived at New Geneva aboard a massive vessel that had been disguised as a cargo hauler, but was actually a mobile construction facility. Your species offers something the Alliance never has, Thoktar explained through his translation device during his meeting with President Santos. Respect for what we can contribute rather than demands for what we must sacrifice. The Kethera brought with them construction techniques that revolutionized human shipbuilding. Their organic metal-forming processes allowed for hull designs that were both stronger and more flexible than traditional construction methods. Within months, human shipyards were producing vessels that seemed to grow rather than being assembled. The second major alliance came from an unexpected source. The wanderer fleets, nomadic traders who had roamed the galaxy for millennia, approached Admiral Blake with an offer of cooperation. Their leader, Captain Zara Moonrunner, was a pragmatic woman whose people had grown tired of Alliance taxation and regulation. We know routes through space that don't appear on any Alliance charts, Moonrunner explained during a secret meeting aboard the Defiance. We can move your fleets and supplies through areas where Alliance sensors will never detect them. In exchange, we want protection for our people and recognition of our territorial claims. The Wanderer Alliance gave humanity access to hidden jump points and uncharted systems that had been secret for generations. This intelligence network proved invaluable. As human forces began striking Alliance installations with seemingly impossible precision and timing, the Alliance realizes their mistake. High Arbiter Veltar of the Alliance High Council stared at the tactical reports flowing in from across Alliance space with growing horror. What had been intended as a simple matter of disciplining an upstart species had transformed into a galaxy-wide crisis that threatened the Alliance's very existence. The humans have evacuated 17 colonies in the past month, reported Intelligence Director Crixon. But they're not just taking their people. They're taking everything: factories, research facilities, even orbital installations. Some of these systems are being left completely barren. Veltar examined the data with increasing alarm. The Alliance had expected humanity to beg for readmission within months of their exile. Instead, human military capability had grown exponentially while their own member species began questioning the wisdom of Alliance policies. What is the status of our member worlds? Veltar asked. 3 minor species have formally requested permission to withdraw from Alliance space to establish independent colonies, Crixon replied reluctantly. 7 others have reduced their contribution quotas, claiming economic hardship. The Kethera engineering guilds have completely disappeared from their homeworld. The implications were becoming clear. Humanity's exile had not weakened them. It had removed the restraints that had kept them manageable. Worse, their success was inspiring other species to question the Alliance's authority and seek alternatives to collective governance. The fortress worlds rise. As human evacuations neared completion, the liberated populations were not simply relocated to existing colonies. Instead, they were organized into the construction of fortress worlds, planets transformed into massive military and industrial bases that could defend themselves against any conceivable attack. New Geneva, established on a planet in the Outer Rim territories, became the Federation's capital and a showcase of human engineering prowess. The entire world was designed as an integrated defense system, with cities built into mountain fortresses connected by underground transportation networks. Orbital platforms provided both industrial capacity and military protection, while the planet's surface was dotted with defensive installations that could repel invasion fleets. Commander David Park, recently promoted after his success in coordinating colonial evacuations, stood in the command center of New Geneva's primary defense platform, watching the latest construction reports. "We're ahead of schedule on the orbital shipyards," he reported to Admiral Blake via quantum communicator. The first of the new Titan-class battleships should be completed within 6 months. Blake reviewed the specifications for the Titan-class vessels with satisfaction. These ships were larger and more powerful than anything humanity had previously constructed, designed specifically to serve as mobile command centers for extended campaigns far from human space. Each vessel could support a crew of 10,000 and carry enough firepower to challenge an entire Alliance battle group. A new power emerges 18 months after their exile from the Galactic Alliance. Humanity had transformed from scattered colonists into a unified galactic power. The Terran Federation controlled 47 star systems and maintained diplomatic relations with dozens of independent species. Their military had grown from a collection of Alliance hand-me-downs to a cutting-edge force that incorporated the best technologies and tactics from across the galaxy. President Santos stood before the Federation Assembly, looking out at representatives from every human world and allied species. The Great Hall on New Geneva had been built to accommodate delegates from dozens of different biologies and environmental requirements, a symbol of the Federation's commitment to genuine equality and cooperation. 2 years ago, the Galactic Alliance told us we had to choose between submission and isolation, Santos declared. They believed we would be so terrified of standing alone that we would accept any terms they offered. They were wrong about our fear, and they were wrong about our isolation. The assembled delegates, human, Cathara, Wanderer, and representatives from a dozen other species, rose in unanimous approval. The Terran Federation had become something the Alliance never managed to achieve, a genuine partnership of equals, working together by choice rather than compulsion. Today, we are not the exiled remnants of a failed Alliance membership, Santos continued. We are the foundation of a new galactic order based on freedom, cooperation, and the radical idea that every sapient being has the right to determine their own destiny. As applause filled the Great Hall, Alliance monitoring stations throughout the galaxy recorded the transmission and forwarded it to Nexus Prime. High Arbiter Veltar read the reports with the growing realization that humanity's exile had not solved the Alliance's problems. It had created a rival that might soon become too powerful to ignore. The humans had not simply survived their expulsion from galactic society. They had used it as an opportunity to build something better. The Alliance's attempt to keep humanity small and dependent had instead freed them to become the galaxy's newest superpower, and their rise was just beginning. Asterisk, asterisk.